Hello, Steeler Nation, and I'm your host, G.Stryker, and welcome to your SteelerNation.com podcast. Today, we are lucky and fortunate to have the man in the middle of the Blitzburgh Defense and all-pro Pro Bowl linebacker of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Levon Kirkland. Levon, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good, Where are you currently living now in Steeler Nation?
Well, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm born and raised in Lamar, South Carolina. So want to be closer to family and friends, and it's pretty cool so far.
Nice. Well, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And how have you been treating? I know we've got this the whole coronavirus going on. I know it's changed basically how we do business, but what are you currently doing now, and how is that affecting what you're doing on a daily basis?
Well, what I can do, I can easily do it from home. I'm the VP of development with the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. So we do a lot of, my job is basically develop relationships and also do a lot of fundraising. We do a podcast ourselves called The Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
Nice.
And it gives us an opportunity to talk to not only former players that played in South Carolina in some kind of affiliation or coach there, but we're also doing this series called the Summer Series that we're talking to student athletes, athletes who have done a great job in the classroom and off the field, basically guys who are either seniors or guys who have left high school during this time. And it's a unique way for us to get their stories. And it's also the opportunity for people to what we call join the movement and help support our Bridge Builder program while supporting some of the best student athletes in the state of South Carolina.
Nice. Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about that Bridge Builder program. What exactly is it, so that Steeler Nation knows about it?
Well, basically what the Bridge Builder program does, it helps the college athlete not really the college athlete, but student athletes. And we try to help them as far as life skills are concerned. If they're going to college, try to get them to understand credits that need to be taken, the clearinghouse. And basically we want to be a resource for them throughout their whole lives. And Stryker, the issue in South Carolina is we're ranked like 43rd in college and career readiness.
Wow.
And so our Bridge Builder program basically helps educate, empower, and encourage these students so they can have success, whether it's be in their career, college, or their life endeavors.
That's great. And congratulations also to your Clemson football program down there. I mean, they're really putting an excellent program together now. I mean, I know you went there. You're a big part of starting, I guess, their football program too, to get it recognized. I know you were a two-time All-American. I know you were also an ACC recognized there for 3 years. So talk to us a little bit about what it was like to play for the Tigers back when you were starting out, and of course the pride that you must feel now for their program.
Well, when I started there, I wasn't a very highly recruited individual, but Danny Ford did a great job at that program at the time. In the 80s, we were pretty good too, late 80s, early 90s. And just a tradition that really emphasized hard-nosed football, defensive football, run the ball, taking it to people. So it was a pleasure playing there. I played with some great guys. We were actually at one point the number one defense in the nation my junior year. So we ended up being the number one team and number one defense in the nation. I think it really prepared me for the next level as far as going to Pittsburgh and understanding their philosophy. And it was almost the same, tough defense, taking pride in your position, and all about championships. So, and, the program is doing well now. They're recognized as one of the top tier programs in the country. And it feels good. I mean, we've been going through some difficulties of lately as far as, one of our coaches and using the N word. So is not as great as it was, but coming from Clemson, you can't help but love it because that's where you're born and raised. And so, I definitely have pride about it, but we still have a long ways to go as far as our social justice is concerned too.
Yeah. And you live right there. I mean, very close to Clemson as well. You've lived there your whole life.
Well, actually, it's about 2 hours away.
Okay.
it was about 3.5 hours away from where I was born and raised. But it was a big deal for me to go to Clemson. Like I said, I come from a really small town,
Yeah.
not highly recruited, but to go there and have some really good success was remarkable. But the one thing I always remember is my father basically telling me that he never thought a son of his would go to Clemson. And I asked him what was the reason of him thinking that. And, he reminded me that, during his time, there were, he couldn't get through the front door, black and white water fountains.
Yeah.
So it was tough for African American, and especially in the South, to go to a university like Clemson.
Mhm.
But he was able to see his son go there and do well. And you didn't mention this, but I'm now in what they call the Ring of Honor, which your name is displayed inside the stadium, and they retire your jersey. And that was one of the things I told people about my father and mother's name being on there and how much pride I really take in that.
Oh, that's great. So now I know after your time was done in Clemson, you were highly drafted in the second round by the Steelers. Did you recall any other teams reaching out to you at the time, or was there anyone specifically from the Steelers that talked to you before you were drafted?
Now, I have to say this. The Steelers really interviewed me more than anybody else did. They were the only team that their full staff interviewed me in the combines. I visited the Pittsburgh Steelers. I did also visit the Dallas Cowboys, but the Steelers really seemed to show the most interest right off the bat. And after me and Coach Cowher had a one-on-one conversation in his office, that was really the only team I wanted to play for, the team that I wanted to draft me. And growing up, I wasn't a Pittsburgh Steelers fan at all. I was actually a Dallas Cowboy fan. So
Wow.
it was kind of different and strange. And I always tell people when I was a kid, my father, instead of getting me Dallas PJs, he got me some Pittsburgh PJs, and he just didn't really know a whole lot about the game. And I was terribly upset, but I had to wear those Pittsburgh Steelers PJs.
Yeah.
And I kind of look back and I say, I wondered, was it destiny that I was going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers? So, the Steelers was a team that really, I think, really wanted to have me there. And it was really, after I talked to Bill Cowher, the only team I wanted to be drafted to.
That's great. Was there anything specific that Bill said to you that made you feel like this is the guy and this is the right choice?
No, I think it was more so his energy than anything. It wasn't one particular thing that he said.
Yeah.
It was just his energy. He was a young coach. He was a rookie head coach.
Yep. And
coming from college, you're thinking like, man, this guy kind of has a college feel about him.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be kind of great to play with him. I mean, it seemed like he was really intense, my type of coach. So I really wanted to play for him. I bet he could have went on the road and recruited guys, and he probably would have got the majority of his guys because of the energy that he displayed. And, it was really authentic, and you could tell, and it really was that way the whole time I was there.
Oh, that's great. So you report right after you're drafted to St. Vincent's, which is obviously a unique experience for a lot of football players going into like kind of a college environment to start your training camp and to meet everybody else on your team. Was there anybody that reached out and helped you as a rookie?
Well, there's several guys that it was a different NFL. You got to realize there was not a lot of social media. Yeah. It was almost the beginning of free agency, as we know now. Mm-hmm. So, guys were a little different. You had to really earn your respect on the team before you got a lot of guys to reach out to you. But I can tell you there were some guys who reached out to me pretty early. Ernie Mills was one of them.
Oh, nice.
Merle Hodge. And also Jerry Oslowski was a guy who was playing the same position.
Yeah.
And he really taught me a great deal as far as learning the position, knowing how to play, because you have to realize I was an outside backer / defensive end at Clemson. Yeah. And I never played the position before. I never played inside backer ever in my life. So it was really an adjustment period for me. So it took me about a year to really get it down. And it really still took me a while to really understand the instinct of it. And it was all about the repetitions you take. But to go back to your question, I had those kind of guys. And then as you go along, guys are a little friendlier to you. But back then, man, guys were not the friendliest guys. I have a story about Hardy Nickerson that, man, he just got in my face like, oh, you're going to try to take my job. And I was just like, what are you talking about, man? I'm just, I just got drafted. Mm-hmm. And, eventually I ended up taking David Little's job, and Hardy went into free agency. So, yeah. And me and Hardy actually became really good friends after that. But the atmosphere was a little different back in the day.
Oh, that's a great story, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
So, your first year on the team, I mean, it's Bill Cowher's first year. They had a couple seasons where they didn't make the playoffs, obviously, at the end of Noel's career, and they make the playoffs in your rookie year for like the first time since '89. Could you feel something building that year when you were playing with them?
Well, I'll tell you what happened is kind of funny. I think the first game of the year kind of changed our season around. We're getting beat by the Houston Oilers like 14-0. Oh, and wow. It seemed like, man, this may be a long year. Yeah. But what happened was he ran a fake punt that almost went down for a touchdown. We ended up scoring, and the momentum just changed. Oh. And then the next week, we beat the Jets. And, to have a successful team is all about buy-in and about ownership. Yeah. Once he made that move and said, hey, we're here to win and we'll do whatever it takes to win. Yeah. Guys really believed in the system. Guys bought into it. And it just took over from there, because you could tell that this guy was all about winning games and putting us in position to win games. So when he did that, it was on from there. We really played well, and we got better and better and better.
So the next year, you become a starter, obviously, along with rookie Chad Brown at inside linebacker. And the Steelers also pick up Kevin Green at free agency, and Blitzburgh was born. So what was it like playing on that defense?
Oh, it was really great, because what happened was you were really formulating a team that, especially I would say with the linebackers, we all fit so well together. Yeah. But we were all really different in what we could do. Kevin was a veteran pass rusher who can get to the passer. Yeah. Greg Lloyd could just make big plays from his linebacker position. And Chad and I were different type of inside backers. We weren't really the normal prototypical backers that you would have in a game. Usually most backers are inside guys back then. They weren't really the fastest guys or the most athletic. And a lot of times they were covered up. Chad and I were very athletic. Yeah. And Chad could rush the passer. I could rush the passer also. But I was big enough, mobile enough to really be able to really do well in coverage. And you could put us in certain defenses that didn't seem strong for the run game, but we can make up the difference. Yeah. And I think because we were different type of athletes in the inside position, that we really probably very underrated in what we did. In a 3-4, the outside backers are the guys who make the sacks, make the big plays.
Yeah.
But with the combination of Greg, Kevin, Chad, and myself, we just really meshed well together. With Kevin and Greg being older, they really showed us how to be a professional, how to approach the game. And Chad and I just never wanted to let them down, but we also wanted to create a legacy ourselves. And I think we did that. Unfortunately, we just didn't stay together that long. We were only together for 3 years, but man, what a 3 years that was, and what an impact we made. And it was just a lot of fun because there was no weakness on that defense, especially at the linebacker position.
Yeah, and then plus you had the cornerbacks behind you and the safeties with Lake and then Woodson, and you
got Joe Steed in front of it.
Yep.
You got Joe Steed who was amazing at nose tackle.
Yeah.
We had guys like Christian Buckner, Ray Seals, and all the pieces just really fit. And like you said, we were Blitzburgh. We were different than most defenses. We came after people, but we were able to maintain zone integrity. So you wasn't just getting beat deep. You just wasn't getting beat, just blitzing at all costs. It was a strategy to it. And we made the most out of everybody. And, they did it for so long. That 3-4 defense, that Blitzburgh style stayed there for a while. And that's why you saw so much success. But, although we didn't win a Super Bowl, I think we really did start a tremendous trend that will be remembered for a long time.
Well, you didn't win a Super Bowl, but you obviously got to a Super Bowl. Now, who was calling the plays then? Usually it's one of the inside linebackers that calls the defensive alignments in that. Was that you or Chad, or was that somebody else on the defense that was calling the plays?
That was me, actually. I was the signal caller back then. And, it's so funny because I remember my second year, and I didn't know I won the job, and honestly, before then, I really never called the signals. I never did it in college.
Yeah.
And my first year, I didn't do it. My second year, I did a little bit more, and I actually liked doing it. But I just remember Bill Cowher telling me, as the inside backer, especially what we call the buck backer, the strong side inside backer, hey, you're going to have to really take over the huddle. And, it's funny because I got Greg Lloyd on one side, Kevin on the other side, Rod, and these guys are very established guys. And I just took David Little's spot. And now the second year guy who's never played the position before now has to be, has to take control. And not only that, fulfill Jack Lambert's legacy and David Little's legacy and a bunch of linebackers who in front of me. But I took pride in that. I wanted to be, one of the best linebackers in Steelers history.
Yeah.
But it was me who made the signal calls.
And that's great. And just so you know, Steeler Nation does consider you one of the best linebackers in history. We just did a top 10, and you're in the top 10.
So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No worries. It wasn't me personally. It was our website, SteelerNation.com. But it was awesome. We went through it on the podcast, and obviously it was great to see your name. And we talked about you at length because I grew up with you, so it was great watching you. And
thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It's always humbling when people say that because I come from a humble background, and when people say, they give me compliments on my play, it's always great to hear that.
Nice. So you guys make it to 3 championships in the next 6 years, obviously including the Super Bowl. Can you talk to us about what it was like to put together a team that was a Super Bowl caliber team for such a long period of time, number one, and then ultimately what it was like to play in a Super Bowl?
Well, like I said, I think with most teams, especially in the NFL, there's not really a separation of talent. Everybody has pretty decent talent. It's not that far of a separation, but I think what really separated us and put us on that championship level where we're always vying for the Super Bowl was great leadership from the Rooneys, great leadership from our head coach, great coaching from our coaching staff, and just a belief in the Steeler organization and the culture and what we were doing. We as players understood that what we were doing really worked and it was unique. And so we took a lot of pride in it. So we had, I thought, tremendous pride in the black and gold and how football was supposed to be played. And really, not only that, how football is supposed to be played with the Steelers organization, the tradition of defense. And we carried that on. We took that ownership. And I think you have to have great leadership, and you have to have not only the coaches buying into it, but the players have to buy into it. If none of that stuff is in order, it really doesn't work. Yeah. And you see it all over the league where it doesn't work. When a team is not good, something's going on, whether it's leadership, coaching, players, it's evident that something's going on because the talent level is really not that different. It's just how the talent is worked, and do the talent believe in what they're doing? And I think that that's what we had. And you got different guys who play different roles. Sometimes you're gonna have you got 5-star players, you got 4-star players, and you got 3-star players. Yeah, and they all have to play the role. They have to do, not only do their job, but sometimes you have to go beyond your work. I know Bill Belichick is really tagline with do your job. But a lot of times when, I saw Rod Woodson take some gambles and make some plays, or, on defense, I always tell people what I thought was that every defense had a weakness, but sometimes it's the players you depend on to overcome those weaknesses, overcome the scheme of it sometimes. Not that you play out of the scheme, but sometimes you have to overcome it. I can tell you a story about, it's an interception I made in the Buffalo game. It was a Monday night game. It was kind of, go ahead, Stryker, what are you going to say?
So was that the one where you're running all the way deep for that one?
Yes.
So please tell us that. That's a great play.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you what really actually happened.
Yeah.
Chad had switched to outside backer because we had injuries to Greg and Jason. Yeah. So Chad had to play outside. Jerry moved inside, and I think we had Ravati on the other side. Okay. And so we had what we call like a combo coverage, where if the tight end goes to Chad's side, Chad has him, I have the hole. If he comes to me, I have it, then Chad would kind of what we call just kind of fade back and kind of look for, to help anybody in coverage. Yeah. Chad did not cover the tight end. I saw the tight end just wide open. Yeah. So I turned around and I sprinted to the tight end. Yeah. He was ahead of me. It looked like he was beating me. And I was just like, well, if he puts his hands up, I'm going to go ahead and put my hands up because I'm not quite there with him. Yeah. He throws his hands up pretty early. I just reached out and the ball hit me pretty much on my forearms and I just grabbed it. But it really wasn't my coverage. It was Chad's guy. But I saw that Chad didn't have him, so I took him. Oh. So that's what I mean. So you could say, well, do your job. But sometimes in the heat of it, and Chad was new to the outside backer position. Mm. So in the heat of it, sometimes you miss your job. So you got to depend. Sometimes can players make plays in the moment, and could they do things that are a little extraordinary? Yeah, and sometimes you do that, and that's what happened and that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes you have to make up for the scheme because the scheme called for one thing, but if there's a leak in it or somebody doesn't do their job, hopefully players make up the difference and can make the play.
And Steeler Nation also has to know this was a play where the tight end, which usually stays kind of short in these types of patterns in that situation, he went deep. He ran a seam route, and you turned and you went with him, and you were 35, 40 yards downfield catching up to this guy who already knew he was going to run, and you made the interception. It's a beautiful highlight. And honestly, Steeler Nation, check out Levon Kirkland's highlights here on YouTube because they're just a pleasure to watch. But it was an amazing play, especially when we see inside linebackers, we don't expect them to make plays like that far downfield. And it was just such a big play, number one, and a game-changing play for getting a turnover.
Well, I think that was the thing that maybe surprised a lot of people, that I was able to do that. But
Yeah.
Physically, I wasn't really that fast. I didn't really run a really good 40, but the thing that I did have was I had tremendous feet as far as quickness and lateral movement, and I had great fluid movement in my hips.
Yeah.
So, and like I said before, I actually played outside backer and defensive end.
Yeah.
So I was a better athlete than most middle or inside backers.
Yeah.
But I was also such a big guy that most people wouldn't think that way. They would think that I was a lumbering guy.
Yes.
But I've always but my athletic ability as far as my feet and my hips were really good. I was tremendously quick as a inside backer. It was just in a big package. So most people probably wouldn't have guessed that I can move the way I can move.
Yeah.
People in the inner circle of the NFL knew, and they recognized, but I think it took people a little bit of time to catch up. And then we had so many tremendous players on our defense.
Yeah.
And my job was kind of gritty, dirty. So it wasn't, I made a lot of plays, but I didn't, it probably took people a little bit of time, unless you were Pittsburgh Steeler and you looked at the games. I think it took the nation a little bit of time to recognize that we had some really good players, and I was one of them.
Nice. And so take us back to that 1995 season a bit, because you guys had such a dominating defense, even though you ended up losing Rod Woodson week one. I remember in that Detroit Lions game, you played without Rod Woodson the entire season until the Super Bowl, where he actually came back in the same season from an ACL injury. I know Lake had to change from safety to corner to help cover that vacancy, but the linebackers that year were on fire and played excellently all year. So talk to Steeler Nation what it was like to lose like a 5-star player, how you guys reacted to that, and then your journey then for that 95 season culminating in the Super Bowl.
Well, the thing about the NFL or any profession, you're first and foremost a professional. And when Rod Woodson got hurt, we weren't devastated. Now, I have to say that we didn't start off that well that year. We actually were 3-4.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean by Coach Cowher. Coach Cowher, we were 3-4. We had a bye. We just lost to Cincinnati on national television. So the season doesn't really look that great to us, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So we don't, we're thinking like, man, we're not playing well. We're just not gelling. Neil was hurt a little bit that year too. So we just got off to a sluggish start. And we were adding another cornerback, and it was like, man.
Yeah.
So Bill Cowher, I thought, did a tremendous job of really setting us back on course. So we get back after the bye week, and we normally have a chart of all the teams we play and everything. Did we win? Did we lose? Did we reach our goals? So we have this big chart on this chartboard. We get back, and the chartboard is completely empty. There's nothing on it. And we're like, okay, what's going on? Bill Cowher gets up, and he basically like, forget about the 3-4 record we have. We're starting this season over. And our first game is against Jacksonville Jaguars. We win this game, we're 1-0. We win the game. And we don't even refer to being 4-4. Our language is we're 1-0.
Yeah.
So the next, I don't know if you recall, but the next game is Chicago Bears. And we're playing those guys at their stadium at, around 4:00 or so.
Yeah.
And Chicago is actually a pretty good team. They're like 5-3 or something like that, maybe. Mm-hmm. We go there and we play those guys, and it's a great game. And we end up winning that game in overtime.
Wow.
So now we're 2-0.
Yeah.
Now we start believing it. Then we go 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. So we ran off 8 straight games that season, and we go to Cincinnati, and they're beating us like they beat us. They're beating us like they beat us before.
I think that was a primetime game, wasn't that?
I don't know if it's just a regular,
regular
game.
But I remember,
regular regional game.
Okay.
And they're up on us. We come back in the second half. That's when Cordell Stewart emerges. And now we start doing the 5 wides before anybody was doing it.
Yeah.
And we end up coming back in that game, winning that game. And from there, it just snowballed. And we just believed in that year, too, we became closer as a team. We hung out together. We did activities together. And people don't think that's a big deal, but it is, because a lot of times as a professional, you do your work and you go home. And you family life or whatever life you got going, you go home. You don't hang out like you do in college. And that was the first year that we actually hung out as a team. Offense, defense, it didn't really matter. We hung out as a team.
Oh, cool.
And that's kind of how the game, that season kind of turned around. So it was tremendous to see how you can be in one situation and bounce back. But it's still, like I said, it takes the leadership and the ownership. Coach Cowher could have said, hey, we're going to start the season over. And I'm sure a lot of people have done that. But to actually believe it and to actually do it is something different.
Yeah. And can you tell us then what it was like? What was the excitement going into Super Bowl week? Obviously it's different than anything else because you have a full week where you have to do interviews, you've got obligations. Kind of talk to Steeler fans what it was like for your personal experience for that.
Well, for me, it was something that I've dreamed about and imagined about ever since I was 11 years old, about going to the Super Bowl and playing in the Super Bowl and winning and having a magnificent game. I'll tell you, at that time, my mindset was of this. During that 3 and 4 stretch, I wasn't really having a great year, but I think I was being a little selfish at the time. And, the linebackers were really being taught, everybody's talking about a linebacker position, but I felt that I wasn't getting as much publicity, and I wasn't. But my job was just, I thought in a lot of ways, it was an important job. It was a key job, but it was just a dirty job too. It was a job that I had to grind. And sometimes as a player, you want more, you want recognition. And I was being a little selfish. And then I got to a point where it was 3 and 4, and I reevaluated myself, and I was like, you know what? Just play to win, dude. And I stopped caring about anything individually.
Okay.
I did. I stopped caring about, accolades.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny. Once I started doing that, I started playing much better. I mean, I had, before then I was having a really good season. I didn't really think about it, to be honest with you. But then when we got on that run, and especially we got to the Super Bowl, for me, it was about winning. I didn't care. I could care less if I made a tackle or a big play. I just wanted us to win. And it's funny how when you put a purpose in front of you, and it's not about you individually, how better you are individually. It's kind of funny that way.
Yeah.
And so my whole experience was, they were talking about the Dallas Cowboys like they should. I mean, they were a juggernaut at the time, but I felt like we could take this team.
Yeah.
Because they really didn't do anything complicated. They were just really good at what they did. Yeah. And so once you realize that they basically ran the counter, they ran the lead, they didn't do a lot of things that was that hard. So it wasn't like you were going against Buffalo or the Houston Oilers where they just have all these plays and you got to try to understand what they're doing. Dallas is very simple at their approach. They were just very physical, and they just had all the pieces you could possibly have. they had those pieces. But I thought that, man, with our scheme and the guys we got, we thought that we can play with these guys. And not only that, that we can stop them. Now, that first series, it was like, yo, whoa, these guys are good. But honestly, we a lot of times you let things happen, and Emmett got that first big play, and it was like settle, like we just need to settle down.
Yeah.
And once we settled down, we kind of pretty much stuffed him, and we pretty much stuffed their whole offense, and we just we basically turned the ball over. And when a team is that good, you can't turn the ball over. And you can't, it was not only he got an interception, and I honestly think if he was just, okay, Larry Brown caught the interception and we tackle him when he got the interception, they wouldn't have scored.
Yeah.
They score because they basically put him in great position.
Yeah.
And they end up scoring.
Yes.
But that first touchdown they got off that, if we would have replay, Emmitt Smith didn't get in.
Yeah.
He was knocked down before he got in. But we didn't have it, and they gave him the score. And you know how it is with a force of nature, man. When you're the underdog, you got to take the momentum, and you got to take it away because everything is going to be in favor for the better team. Yeah. And we just, we end up playing very well, and really the momentum changed around until we gave it back. But I thought we played those guys tremendously. Honestly, it gave me a whole lot of confidence going into the next year, and played well after that.
So who ended up giving you the nickname Captain Kirk?
I had so many nicknames because Kirk just kind of,
Or Kirkland.
from the Star Trek thing, people they either call me, it's Kirk. I had so many nicknames, to be honest with you. We didn't use them, but most people either call me Captain. Like most guys on my team call me Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
The Steelers, they still do, just because the name affiliation with Star Trek. Yeah. But also people would call me Big Kirk because of my size and my last name. So Big Kirk would be one. Kirk Dog would be one. So Kirk Man would be one. So LK. I just had a bunch of nicknames. Nice. And it just, nobody really came up with it. It just kind of like, it just flowed with Captain Kirk of Star Trek. So people would just call me Captain Kirk, and being at the inside position it just kind of fit.
Well, you were the captain of that defense there calling the plays, so I always loved that nickname for you.
It was so funny because, I always thought it was a good marketing campaign, but, we just nobody ever used it. And back then, we didn't really know about how marketing really worked, but, I was, I was really a guy with a big personality, but, it just wasn't really seen a lot. Everybody in the locker room saw it.
Yeah.
And I did take the leadership role, but it really wasn't me to be outgoing like that. I had to be outgoing. I had to be like, when you're in that kind of position, you have to be beyond yourself. You have to be, kind of in character. So the linebacker position and being the leader, it was more of a character than anything. I was, a lot of times, I wasn't really that vocal. When I Clemson, I wasn't that vocal. I was just more intense and enthusiastic. Yeah. Now I was intense, but when Coach Cowher told me you have to take over the huddle, I took it seriously. I was like, okay, but it took a little time to build that. And some guys like to talk, but that's all they do. They just talk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, in the land of professional people, if you don't earn their respect, you're just talking and nobody's listening to you. I think the thing that I did well was I put in the work and I made plays. And when you do that in the football arena, you become a leader. Yeah. You become a leader, and if you don't do work and you talk a lot, you're just a loudmouth. So I felt that my work actually played a big part on me being called Captain Kirk, Kirk Dog, and all those nicknames that I mentioned before. But I thought I was just a guy who just earned respect.
Well, you earned the fans' respect. That's a definite. And
thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Then 2001 rolls around. I know free agency becomes a thing for the Steelers, but a lot of fans don't fully understand all the reasons for you leaving the team. Can you explain to Steeler Nation what happened and what exactly happened, I guess, for you to go out to Seattle?
Yeah, well, at that time, I don't know if you know, but Damani Dawson got hurt too.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
He got hurt, and that really kind of affected what happened with me because of my salary at the time. We weren't, we had a lull there where we didn't get in the playoffs like the last 3 years, the 3 years prior to it. And, it wasn't really my play because actually I played really, compared to the year before, I actually played pretty well.
Yeah.
That year. And I was in great shape, played well. I had an injury that I still didn't miss a game from. So I thought honestly that was really, I played with a lot of heart and soul that year. And, sometimes teams don't look at you the same, like you got to realize that at one point in time, I was probably one of the top defensive players in the league. Yeah. Not just one of the top players in Pittsburgh, but in the NFL, man, probably one of the top defensive players. Yeah. And, it's a business. And if you're not performing on that level all the time, they're always looking to get rid of you. Wow. And seeing if they can get somebody a little cheaper or whatever. Because it is a business. And I play linebacker. It's not like playing quarterback. Yeah. Because quarterbacks, if you're a big time quarterback, they will keep you more so than every other position, I think, is expendable in a lot of ways. Yeah. And I'm talking about the position, not the player. Now, if you got like a Troy, now that guy's valuable. But that position, if he doesn't play that position well, then he's out of there, Yeah. Any position. Quarterback is looked at a little bit differently, but I digress. I think I was just a casualty of the salary cap, and you're paying a guy a whole lot more money. And although I'm still a really good player, I'm not at the top of, I'm not where I was, So compare what I was in 96 and 97. Yeah. There's no way in the world you get rid of a Levon Kirkland.
Yes.
But 2000, even though he's still probably better than 90% of the players out there, can we go in a different direction? Can we get this cap off us? Yeah. And that's what they did. And, the only thing that I was a little upset with is that I thought I've earned the respect that they could at least let me know. Oh, like before the word got out, I didn't know anything. And that was for me, that was the tough part about it because you're taught and you're trained to be about the team and to give it up for the team. And for the team not to say like, hey, Levon, this is our direction and this is where we're going. Yeah. And I think this is where the NFL get it wrong. And I think this is where sometimes even good organizations like Pittsburgh Steelers get it wrong. I'm 29 years old or something like that, maybe 29 or 30. I'm a grown man. You can come to me with the truth. Yeah. And tell me, hey, this is the direction we're going. We love we would love to keep you, but it's the business of it. Once I got over Ed Bouchette telling me on a phone call because he wanted to get the scoop and me just being blindsided, I understood the business. I understood that, hey, even I tell people the story when I first got the job from, became a starter, my brother was, I was like, man, I hated the way David Little got released. My brother reminded me, he's like, listen, dude, business is business. Yeah. They're going to try to replace you. So I always understood the business going in. Okay. The issue that I always had with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I don't have that issue anymore, but it was just I thought I earned the respect and I played there long enough that you could have simply made a phone call and say, Levon, this is where we're headed. Yeah. I still might not have liked it, but I would respect it more because I thought I gave the team my loyalty.
Yeah.
And to not get that, it makes, and as much as I, really respect the Rooneys and Bill Cowher, I thought I earned that respect at the time. It didn't happen. I was a little upset, but I had conversations with Mr. Rooney afterwards, and I basically thanked him. I was like, hey, I understand. Yeah. Thank you for drafting me. Thank you for renewing my contract twice when you really didn't have to. And I appreciate everything. Thank you. And it was funny when when I finally got the contract from Seattle, Coach Cowher called me and they were like, hey, we'd love to have you back. But then that's when I became more of a businessman. I was just like, listen, thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to take my show on the road. Yeah. Like Dick Lebeau always used to warn us, be able to Dick Lebeau would tell you things, but you had to catch him. He would tell us as players, be able to take your show on the road. And a lot of times people didn't get that. But I was like, he's telling us like, hey, this is a profession. You may not play for the Pittsburgh Steelers or be able to take your show somewhere else. Yeah. And I was reminded of that when they were just like, hey, we'd like for you to come back. So they asked me to come back. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? Thank you for the offer. But I knew that the Seattle Seahawks wanted me and wanted my leadership and wanted the way I played. Yeah. They wanted me. And I just had to make a business decision just like they made. So no harm in it. No foul. It was all good. It's a shelf life anyway. And that's really what happened. I know a lot of people got upset when I got released. Yeah. But it was just a business call. And it's just, as you grow up, football is different from high school, college, and all those things. So it was a different situation. It was a professional situation. And as a player, you understand that. Even more so now, the guys, they definitely understand it. But it's funny because the game teaches you about loyalty, about being on a team, about, they try to make it more of a family. But when you get into that league, you could try to make it as much as a family as you can. But at the end of the day, they're going to get rid of players. I mean, I always said if they can get rid of Joe Montana at San Francisco at that time, you can get rid of anybody. Yeah. And it's played out. I mean, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. If you wear out your welcome, they will let you go. I mean, honestly, even with Jerome's situation, Jerome did a good thing of retiring because I'm sure they were trying to get rid of Jerome too. Yeah. And and that's where like quarterback position is a little different because they always, in a lot of ways, I love quarterbacks, but they coddle those guys more so. Seriously, more so than any other position. Yeah. They coddle those guys. They never, like, every other position is made to compete against. Guys are competing all the time. Yeah. What position that they bring in guys that you can't compete with the number one guy? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You're right. Yeah. Like with the Steelers, who have they really brought in to actually compete with Ben? No one. Yeah. Because quarterbacks they don't want to really compete. They're bringing in entourage for quarterbacks. They bring in guys who can be their buddies and guys who can massage their shoulders and say, hey, man, you're the best. I mean, think about it. Think about all the backups. Yeah. They're not guys who can really compete with a starter. Yeah. They're just guys that if you get into a position, they can do decently and help you out. Yeah. But you don't bring in competition, especially when you got a quarterback who's a top-notch guy like Ben. You don't bring in competition like that. So it kind of Yeah, it probably went away from our topic, but yeah, that kind of, I guess it was on my heart a little bit. But yeah, they try to milk a quarterback as long as they possibly can until they can't milk them anymore.
Yeah.
But quarterback is the only position I think in the NFL that once you get a great quarterback, you're really not trying to bring in top competition.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That's a great point because fans always talk to what about the depth at inside linebacker? What about the depth at outside linebacker? Nobody ever brings up what about the depth at quarterback. I mean, sure, this year a little bit the Steeler fans are talking about it more since Ben had that injury that took him out for the year, but you hit the nail.
Because they need it. Because they need it.
Yeah, it's a great point. And this year, obviously, they're going to be going with Ben full time, obviously, if they play. But to get back to your career, I wanted to talk about your decision to going to Seattle. And I followed you because there was another former Steeler linebacker out there too, and you got to play with Chad Brown again. So, what was it like to reunite out there in Seattle? And was that a factor for you going there as well?
It was a factor because Chad was there. Mm-hmm. And Willie Williams was also there too.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I looked at it and I was like, these guys can really, this is a pretty good defense. They brought in Randall that year. They brought in some other guys. And so we figured that, man, we could be a really good defense. It was just getting used to, I never really played the middle before until I got there. So once I got used to it, we actually had a really good year. And our defense was a lot better than it was. And I think Coach Holmgren was just trying to get some solid guys to help some of the guys that he had with him. But it was good playing with Chad again, man. I mean, we meshed like we always did. It was a lot of fun. But I'm telling you, man, I always thought that, man, that's where we made a mistake in free agency when we got rid of Chad Brown because I thought that the both of us I thought we were going to dominate the league for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I really think we would have dominated because we worked so well together, but we were so similar in so many ways that we were new to the position but we were very good athletes and we both understood each other, and we were never selfish as far as that's go. But yeah, being with Chad again really was one of the main reasons why I chose going to Seattle.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And you had a really productive year. You had a great season, and you were only there for 1 year before going to Philadelphia. So what was the reason for only being in Seattle for 1 year and then your transition to going to Philadelphia?
Well, me and Coach Holmgren had an agreement, and I think what Coach Holmgren was set on is my weight was the thing, and I think he didn't really. I'm gonna tell you what the Steelers understood,
okay,
and especially like guys like Coach Capers, those guys, they didn't care. They knew that I was unique.
Yep.
And they saw the proof in the pudding, like, oh man, he's just a unique guy. He's a bigger guy, but he moves just as well as any other linebacker in the league.
Yeah.
Coach Holmgren always thought if he loses the weight, he'll be better. Even though I was still good, he got caught up in he needs to lose weight. He needs to lose weight. If he loses weight, he'll be better.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that weight, and he just he saw the number and he's like, forget it. Now, I was almost going to retire from football right then. I was like, okay, I'm done with it. But the Philadelphia Eagles, who was a really good team at the time, and Andy Reid, they offered me a deal like the next week.
Oh.
And I got in. And this is what Andy Reid told me. Don't worry about the scale. Don't worry about your weight. Because I know you still can play. He said, I know you can play.
Yeah.
He said, so forget about it. Don't even worry about it. I know what you can do.
Yeah.
So here I am with a better team. And, I had to basically compete for the job.
Yes.
And I came in and I took that job. I basically competed and took that job. Yeah. And I thought, even with Philly, I thought I did a really good job with that. But Andy Reid was a guy, and I'm a big Andy Reid guy to this day.
That's awesome.
Because Andy Reid was basically like, I know what you can do. Don't even worry about it. Just play. He was basically like, you're unique. It was a thing because it was, I was such a unique size, but I carried my weight probably better than anybody did, and the position was so physically demanding. I look back on it and I say, you know what? Maybe I would have been better, but I wouldn't have been unique. Yeah. And I felt like throughout my career, I was a very unique player that could do things that most linebackers could never do. Yeah. And even I could do things that guys wasn't doing anyway. Like, how many guys that were carrying tight ends down the field every single, at least 5 or 6 times during the game, carrying them deep, or really covering a guy in the backfield man to man, or being able to blitz and being able to be a very good run stopper. So I did a lot of things better than most guys did. Yeah. But I think my size was just the people's minds that just kind of always thought of me as a run stopper or something like that, or just but you ask anybody who I played against, or you definitely ask the coaching staff what I could do, and they could tell you that this guy was uniquely special in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I mean, when I went to Philly, man, it was I really felt like, man, I'm on a contender, and we got really close to get to the Super Bowl again, but we didn't end up going. And I was glad I played with. I was happy that I played with Philly, man. I met some great guys there. Met some great people in Seattle too. And it was a great ride for me. It really was. I was really blessed. God really blessed me during this whole time. I didn't get hurt, things like that. And although you want to stay, because it seems really prestigious to stay on one team for all your career. Yeah. I think it's good to go to different teams, because you see it differently. You see a different perspective. And Pittsburgh was a great perspective, but Seattle was a great perspective. And I learned a lot from Andy Reid and Jimmy Johnson. Ron Rivera was my coach, man. And me and Ron Rivera spent so much time together because I know they were like, whip him into shape, Ron. You got to whip him into shape. Yeah. But Ron, even after I finished with Philly, Ron was just like, Levon, you can probably play another 3 years, man. He's like, you still can play. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I got married, and then once I was thinking about coming back again, but my wife got pregnant with my daughter Kennedy, and I'm just like, you know what? Do you really want to go to training camp again, or another training camp? And I just told myself this is it, and I've been satisfied with that decision. That's
great. And I lived in Philly that year too. I loved that ride in 2002. It was you guys really played phenomenally that year. But how did you feel then playing for Andy Reid, watching him win his first Super Bowl then last year?
I felt great for Andy because I think if you ever realize, when people say, well, he can't win a big one, it's not that. It's just that it's a lot of moving parts in winning anything. Yeah. And, to win a Super Bowl, not only do you have to be great on offense, great on defense, coaching staffs have to be really vibing. You got to be fortunate. Yeah. Things got to fall your way. And sometimes that even means who you play in the playoffs. Yeah. Sometimes if you play the opponent that you don't match up well with, like, for example, there's 2 examples. When we played the Denver Broncos that year, and we beat them the regular season.
Yeah, a couple weeks before the regular season, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes people would tell you, I don't care who we play.
Yeah.
I didn't really particularly want to play the Denver Broncos.
Okay. Yeah.
I wanted to play Kansas City. And I didn't care if we played Kansas City at Kansas City because I knew we were going to beat. I knew we'll beat Kansas City.
Yeah.
We'll beat those guys.
Yeah.
Now the Denver Broncos, like, we can beat them, but boy, it's going to be tough this time because, like, let's just say we played them for the first time, we probably would have beat them, but we played them before, so that means they have us on film, they played us, and there is a revenge factor in there. They didn't play as well as they should have the first time we beat them. They dropped a lot of balls, things like that.
Yeah.
But you better be sure that we were going to get their very, very best. Mm. And we still played them well. And and honestly, if it wasn't for 4 turnovers, we'd have beat them again.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was like, I don't mind playing them. But if you asked me my choice of Kansas City and the Denver Broncos, I wanted to play Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And we still end up playing them well. We end up losing by 3, but when you talk about turnovers and you talk about the weapons they had, and I'm really not talking about John Elway so much, but John Elway's presence helps them, even though he was an older, and I don't think he was that much of an effective quarterback as he was. So that was the point about being fortunate. Now, when I'm at Philly, same thing happens. I really wanted to play. I forgot who they played in the championship game. I think it was, I forget.
That was Tampa Bay, I think, in that year.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think who they played. They played the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, the week before?
Yeah. And I was like.
Yeah, it was a big upset. Yeah.
Okay. I don't care about playing Tampa, but I hated playing teams that you played before.
Yeah.
You beat them. Now they have a reason to really play their very, very best.
Yeah.
And, everybody's talking about the cold. They're talking about the home field advantage.
Yep.
And I believe our team kind of bought into that.
Yeah.
But me being a veteran, I was like, man, don't buy into this hype. Don't buy into the fact that we're playing at Veterans Stadium. We're the home team, and we're beating these guys so many times.
Yeah.
And I think, Donovan had just came back from, he just got a broken leg. He came back, and I'm going to be honest with you. I thought we should have rolled A.J. Philly.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I thought that we played better because when Donovan got hurt and then the backup got hurt.
Yeah.
AJ can't. I know his name. I see his face.
Detmer was
Detmer. Yeah.
Detmer's.
Yeah. And I felt like, let's ride this kid because we knew we had AJ, who was a third-string quarterback. But honestly, we played better because we had to play better with AJ. Yeah. And so it's funny, but I was just like, man, let's ride him.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, Donovan came back, and everybody was like, oh, well, Donovan's our guy.
Yeah.
Somebody who's outside looking in, kind of.
Yeah.
I thought in that Atlanta game, we were shaky. We barely beat the Falcons. Mm. And I'm thinking like, man, we should ride. I'm telling you, we should ride this kid. Yeah. But, we had Donovan back. Man, the Buccaneers just got after us. And it was still a close game. We still had an opportunity, but that's the one time when you know that sometimes, man, you got to be fortunate. You got to be fortunate. If we'd have played any other team in that NFC championship, we'd have won that game. But sometimes you just got to be fortunate, not only in your health and things are going well, the opponent you play has to be a good matchup for you too. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's, when they talk about Andy Reid couldn't be the big one, it wasn't Andy Reid. It was, you got to have the right pieces in place, and things got to go well for you. And you got to have in the playoffs, it's all about making a run. If you make a nice run, It doesn't really matter what your regular season was or whatever happened before.
Yeah.
You can make the right run, you can win that thing.
Yeah.
So for him, it was just about making the right run, and that's what happened.
So now we entered the portion of the podcast where we take questions from Steeler Nation. So everybody writes in from Twitter and from SteelerNation.com, and we got a couple quick questions for you if you don't mind answering.
Sure.
The first one's from Johnny Gunslinger 87 on Twitter, and he asked, "Who is your favorite quarterback to sack or go up against?"
Well, for me, it wasn't really quarterbacks. For me, it was running backs.
Oh, okay.
Because you think about it, my position, we were basically, especially back in those days, it was about stopping the run.
Yes.
So for me, quarterbacks, because I didn't really sack the quarterbacks that much. So for me, it was about playing the running backs and being able to stop. And running backs and tight ends were for me.
Yeah.
So probably the guy I liked the most was Eddie George.
Oh,
I love hitting Eddie George, man, because Eddie George was such a big guy, and he was kind of intimidating, man. He was a 6'3", 2-something guy, and I remember the first time I connected with him.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm going to get with this guy. So Eddie, to me, was the guy that I liked playing against, and I like hitting.
Yeah,
he really was.
And I'm showing a highlight here of you guys flipping Eddie George up as a team,
right?
Flipping him upside down in that game in Tennessee, and obviously that's probably the biggest hit Eddie George took in his career.
Because you know what, Eddie George came in, and I think for the first 2 weeks he rushed for 200 yards.
Yes,
his rookie year, he rushed for 200 yards, and then we played him. And we were tattooing the man, and I remember Princeton Buckner saying, "We may look like our Hawkeyes, but these are Pittsburgh Steelers," because we had that same color scheme.
Yeah.
And I think Eddie, I think a guy like Eddie came in with a lot of hype. He won the Heisman. He just ran for 200 yards, and he's probably thinking like, "Oh, I'll do the same with the Steelers."
Right.
But I think after that game, he was like, "Who is number 99? Like, where did he come from?" And that's the beauty of the game, because you meet guys. You could be a high profile guy coming out of college, and you can go against a guy that you never heard of before, and you're just like, "Who in the hell is this guy? This guy is a monster." So I would think Eddie George would be the guy that I like playing against.
And you guys were both huge guys, because Eddie George was huge for a running back, over 6 foot, and big-bodied guy. You were huge for a linebacker, so it was always fun watching the two of you go up against it too. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
So Stillwright asks, he loves Levon Kirkland. Amazing how you could run with that size. His question is, what was the actual heaviest weight that you ever played at?
Oh, I played, honestly, and when I was at Philly, I played at 300 pounds.
Wow. And you're still moving like that. That was great.
Yeah, but the best weight, to be honest with you, I put the best weight. My best weight, where I was just really solid, was around 270, 280. That was my best weight. That was actually those years were my most productive years, around that time. But I think a lot of people see the number. Go back and look at me as a player, and you could tell basically no fat. Only time that I look a little heavier was when 2000, 2001. So maybe a year, but between those first 6 or 7 years, I mean, really, basically, not a lot of body fat at all.
Oh. And then Tibbs also wants to know, since when you became a linebacker, you were so big, do you think that helped intimidate opposing players?
I don't know if it did at first, but I think it did later. I think it did later, because guys were just like, the common thing that I always got was they were watching on tape. They're just like, "Man, how in the heck this big guy move the way he does?" They were always like, "Man, it's unfair that you're playing at this weight." So I don't think it intimidated anybody at first, but I think around my 4th, 5th year, people started like, "Whoa, this guy." And then it was not about me being that big, but people were running the lead and they were running plays like that. And I was just I would just go after him, man. I would take on blockers. I didn't care. I would take on guys, and that's where it kind of helped everybody else. Yeah. A lot of guys, they always trying to make the plays, but you can't make all the plays.
Yeah.
But you can do something. You can do your job, and you can make the play happen. So in a lot of plays that I may not have made the tackle, I guarantee you I took on a blocker that helped make the tackle.
And Ike Kelly asks, you're in a linebacker room. You had Dom Capers, you had Dick Lebeau, Marvin Lewis. I'm sure Cowher was in there at times. What was it like constructing defensive plays with those football minds?
I'm going to tell you, my first couple of years, it was tough, man, because me and Chad we were green at the position. So we made a lot of plays athletically, but we didn't quite have our technique down. You don't understand the many times that Marv Lewis and Bill Cowher would just have me and Chad in the room. And it was heated. And then when we go into our individual linebacker meetings, there was never anything really said directly to to Greg or Kevin.
Okay.
It would be coached through me and Chad. So let's say one time, this is a prime example. One time, we were in our little individual meeting with just me and Chad, and Greg jumped offside. And Marv was like, damn it, we got to stop jumping offside. And me and Chad looking at each other like, we don't ever dude, we're 5 yards back. And he's talking to Greg, but he's coaching it through everybody else.
Oh, wow.
So, but, honestly, in the league, I don't blame Marv for doing that. I mean, back then I didn't understand it, but once you get older, you can't talk to your veteran 5-star guys in a demeaning way.
Yeah. Because
those guys are grown men.
Yeah.
And it's not like college when the coach tell you something, you're like, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah.
These guys are proven professionals. Now, and when they make a mistake, they know it more than anybody else. Yeah. And they're harder on themselves. So if you're a really smart coach, and I think Bill Cowher did this really well, Bill never berated a player. If he did anything, he would encourage you as a player. He may do it in a way where you think wow, he's getting on that guy. Yeah. Bill will never do that. Bill will always encourage you. If you're a dumb coach, that's why a lot of college coaches don't do well in a professional league. Not everybody, because Jimmy Johnson did it, but Jimmy Johnson was a master.
Yeah.
A lot of coaches like Nick Saban, somebody come in, they talk to their players belittledly because they're always dealing with youngsters who they have to develop and mature. When you get to the NFL, you don't have to develop them so much as a player. You have to encourage them and help them get to the next level. Yeah. And so with us, it was just kind of funny because, man, we were getting coached even though somebody else made a mistake. We were getting coached, but we were still young guys. And so, and we were also guys who never played a position. So it was interesting because you had some great minds in there. I mean, especially, I thought Dick Lebeau I thought he was a genius in what he did. Not only was he a great X and O guy, he had a perspective that I think a lot of defensive coordinators don't. He had a perspective of the secondary. And he knew once you get past the secondary, it's over. So he did a great job with the blitz zone stuff, him and Dom Capers, of really never putting the DB in harm's way.
Wow.
And a lot of people thought you blitz, you're giving up something, and hopefully the DBs hold up if it doesn't get there. The scheme we played was a 3, it was basically cover 3. You just didn't have the fourth guy underneath, and so he did a good job of protecting the coverage. We did a lot of exotic stuff, but it was safe exotic stuff. It just seemed like, especially if you're under center, that's why you don't see people under center anymore because the blitz zone would kill you if you would get under center. So, yeah, we had some incredible minds, and I was glad to be a part of it.
That's great. And last question here for Steeler Nation. Steeler Sask asks, what was your most memorable hit and or play?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to tell you the play that probably is not on a lot of people's radar, because some people remember the sack I got against Troy Aikman where I had to jump over Emmett a little bit.
Yeah.
I made some plays where I had to jump over him. But anyway, my best play was the hit I remember is we played in the Cleveland Browns and Leroy Horde.
Oh, wow.
And when I hit this guy, I kind of lift up, and you can see us both parallel to the ground. I'm on top. He's under me, but we're not on the ground. We're still in the air.
Wow.
And it was kind of funny because the play before he acted like he was going in one hole, he went in another hole.
Okay.
And he got some yards.
Yeah.
It was the same exact play, and he went to do that. I'm like, no, he's not doing that. And so when he stepped to the other side, I was right there. Wow. He had no defense, and I just picked him up and I slammed him on the ground. So that is probably my favorite play of all time.
Nice. And Steeler Nation, we've got to know it too. Levon, just tell us again how Steeler Nation can find out more about South Carolina Football Hall of Fame and their Bridge Builder program.
Yeah, well, we're online. We're on Facebook, Twitter, all those things. But a way you can get in touch with me and also help our join the movement is I'm at Kirkland at scfootballhof.org.
Right.
And that's how you can find what we are doing and the tremendous work that we're doing and how we're basically advocate for student athletes. So if you want to join the moment and see all our stories and see us talking to these student athletes, please get online, man. And I'm telling you, it's a great organization.
That's fantastic. Steeler Nation, you've got to check it out. Kirkland at scfootballhof.org. Also follow him on Twitter at Levon Kirkland. That's LEVON_KIRKLAND. Levon, thank you so much for sharing your time. I had a fun conversation with you today, and I really appreciate it. And that you taking as much time as you did, because this was just a dream for me, and I really enjoy your time. Thank you, man.
No problem. Thank you, Stryker. I appreciate you coming on. And if you ever need me to come back on, let me know, okay?
Would love that. I would love that. Peace.
Thank you. All right, bye.
Bye. Steeler Nation, you too can get a great unique gift on the SteelerNation.com gear page. We have every size and many color choices to satisfy all of Steeler Nation. SteelerNation.com is also the best site for unique Steeler content on the internet. Click the podcast button to enjoy one of our many interviews, including this one with Levon Kirkland, or click on the forum button for the best football discussion on the internet. Subscribe to the Steeler Nation YouTube channel to be the first to know about our live vidcams, such as this one that we had today, and video uploads. Tweet us at SteelerNation.com, tweet us at Steeler Nation, Instagram us at SteelerNation.com, follow the Steeler Nation podcast on Twitter at _SN podcast, or you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SN Stryker, Stryker spelled with a Y. Thanks for joining the SteelerNation.com podcast and vidcast. I'm your host, G.Stryker, with Levon Kirkland, rooting along with you as always. Go